Thank you. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. Have I ever read The Tao of Pooh? Yes, my mom gave me The Tao of Pooh years and years ago. I read that book. Okay, cool.
So it's a really good story. There's another story I was wondering about, and it's kind of like the ability to use technology to build a greener world. Have you thought about that story when you were doing this, or telling that story?
I think that story is very present in this film, actually. And yeah, I've thought a lot about that story. I think, William really transformed his environment with an idea from technology, an innovation. But in observing William's life, he moved away from that space. So that's the story that I followed.
My first question was, what was the day job of his mentor, Tom? I was just sort of curious as what he did.
Sure. It appears just in Tom's byline at the very beginning. Tom is the Fellows Director at the TED Conference, or the TED, you might know them as TED Talks. It's a conference, and Tom is kind of an executive level member at TED.
Okay. And my other question was, what were the main challenges you faced filming the documentary? Maybe one or two in it, at least.
Yeah, so many challenges to make the documentary. Well, this was a very long film, like a 5+ year film. Generally speaking, endurance is very important, I think, and hard, and not just for oneself. Just this is a team of individuals. You see a lot of names go by. A lot of those people are financial supporters of the film, but some of them are collaborators and creators that have participated in motivating those people too is really hard, particularly when a story shapes itself in front of you and you don't really know where you're ending up, but you believe that it's going to be important. So,
really curious. Amazing. It's excellent. I'm really curious what their response was after they've seen the film, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Their response being Tom and William.
Tom and William. And also, after hearing about that, I'm curious if you could talk more about your relationship with William and also with Tom.
Sure. Well, the family hasn't seen the film yet. There hasn't been an ability to show the film to the family, and I'd love to. Tom and William were both present at our premiere at South by Southwest, very supportive of the film in advance of the film coming out, and present on stage and participated in those early screenings. As you can see in the movie, William doesn't really like attention. So in an effort to be true and honor that aspect of him and not put forward an image of William that I didn't think was consistent with who he really was, I told this story, and I think even to some capacity this is hard for a person to come to see. I would have a tremendously difficult time watching a film about me, particularly in formative years like William's. I even have trouble watching scenes in this film that I participate in. So I think, like a lot of challenging film, it's unique and hard for everybody. It's kind of a real relationship, ups and downs.
Is his financial future secure? And what is he actually studying?
Can everyone hear me if I just talk like this? I feel a little
No.
better.
Okay, then I'll talk through this. Sorry. I feel really whatever. William's financial future is very stable. He's great. William made a lot of money off of the book. And the book was optioned into a Hollywood film, a narrative film. You see there's a scene in the film, as you recall, where he's signing an agreement that will make that, put that into place. And so those resources have transformed his financial ability and that of his family. So it's a tremendous amount of stability. Safe. Did I use that word, safe? By safe, you mean will his family face famine again, or? I believe so. Yes, but I understand your question. But yes, I believe so. The second part of your question, I'm sorry. William is majoring in environmental studies at Dartmouth. He's in his 3rd year. just going into his 4th year soon.
Really well done.
Thanks.
So kind of follow up with the character question. Since William is obviously so humble with the spotlight, he's not the most talkative person. He's not the most talkative person. He's clearly he has, issues with attention. How did that come up, or did it with filming, like with interviewing, and just how did you keep going? Because it seems that he's such a character, but he doesn't see himself that way. So how did how did that go?
Practically speaking, right, you could interpret that as, whoa, this is a disaster. This subject doesn't even want to emote. Or you could look at it as like, wow, I believe that there's so much happening inside of his head, and he's even choosing the words he wants to use to explain that. And when you turn it that way, then it just becomes amazing. And there's an incredible verbosity in a silent face. And I found that to be really incredible about William as a character and William on film. Like, he's extremely communicative, saying very little. So I think that's relative to where he comes from, to his family. We don't observe a lot of intimacy between the family, a lot of emotional response. And that, we shouldn't interpret that as like they aren't into each other, they don't miss him. They definitely do, but it's just the way that they operate. And myself and the team that would travel to Malawi, it was different a lot who would come. We had to learn that too, like, wow, we bring a lot of expectations onto this. I mean, that's a big theme in the film, and just even in making it, there's a big expectation of what I think people would do or might do, and what I learned otherwise. Nice question.
One of the things, you have a shot of it in the movie with it seems like a government official talking about how they had the power to move the school, or anyway. So, and in the book, which was a Tacoma Reads Together book, I don't know if you
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was our city's book one year, a couple years ago. Anyway, so, and it mentions that in there about government corruption, and so I'm just wondering how, with the resources that are coming back to this village, and how is that managed, or is that just something that's just so difficult because of the political structures that are in place in Malawi?
Well, I mean, it is managed. I don't know if there's like a formal manager, but William keeps an eye on this, and is now and this is the first school that has been built. Additional school blocks have been built in that particular village to provide space for young people to study, for adults to read at night. That's the clutch element of electricity in a building, is adults can use it at night to learn. I think the way that I think about that scene is, we see a possible future for William. A lot of people see a possible future in his political outcome of what he's done and the track he's on. And then we see someone at the end of that line who doesn't really represent that role so well to the community, and maybe sees an opportunity to take advantage of that power. And it's more about understanding. I think William totally grasps that. In that moment, he's seen that, and maybe the important takeaway there is that if he takes that route, if he ends up in that position, he's probably going to do it the right way. So that's how I would answer the question. It's challenging, though, to work in that place and to be in that place, and that's why I think that little moment's so important from that politician.
Since he didn't have the background or the exposure to magazines and traditional Western education, did he ever take SATs, and is Dartmouth pass-fail, or how's he existing in that environment?
He did ultimately take his SAT. I don't know specifically, I couldn't tell you this is great, but he continue to be, as you see, he's in Dartmouth, regardless of whatever that score might have been. Dartmouth is not pass-fail. It's an extremely rigorous education. I think it'd be hard for anybody to go to Dartmouth, particularly those who attend and have been groomed to be in that kind of atmosphere. So it's really, it's hard. It's hard. Is it good hard, bad hard? I don't know. I think that's a question that we all should sit with.
I appreciate the fact that you allowed him to use his language, and so we heard a lot of the language that he is speaking, in a sense, rather than converting all that for us into his English anyway. So it really kind of gives a a good sense of who he is and the roots and going back and forth in terms of what his home was like and back and forth. I thought it was done very well, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. That language is Chichewa. Not many people speak Chichewa. It's really hard to translate that in New York City. But in spending time with William and traveling with him, I feel like there are three kind of worlds of the film, three major environments. There's South Africa and that intense preparatory school. There's America, like the larger America, and Malawi. And in each environment, it was clear that William was a different person. Really behaved differently, projected himself differently, interacted differently, and it was so crucial to, I think, for an audience to know him in Chichewa. So that was, some people would say, don't put foreign language in your film, and you never know who, I don't know if you speak another language, but I speak another language and I take a different attitude on it. I notice when I use it.
I was able to hear him speak when he came to Tacoma. It was after his freshman year at Dartmouth. And the thing that impressed me was his patience. The questions he got from the people there were surely the same questions he had had 100 times before. And he listened to every question and every comment and answered it seriously, never looked at a watch, and I thought, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. I had no idea that there's people that have, like, let's say, first-person exposure to William here. Like, you guys know the source material, so that's pretty exciting. Another way I would say that is William has tremendous poise, and I think that exists in many of his interactions, and is a great way of understanding how he's capable of maintaining such a tremendous transition. So thank you for your comment.
I really thought it was very honest and heartbreaking in every possible way. And I was curious how you knew, well, A, to keep going, and I guess when to stop, because it felt like you could have stopped the story much earlier and it could have had a much more, normally maybe a happy ending. How did you, maybe 2 or 3 years into the process, say to yourself, all right, this is not done, I'm still going to make this movie? And then how did you decide to stop when you did?
Okay, yeah. I just want to say one thing first. I think it might have a happy ending, actually. I think it ends in a place where William will make whatever choice he wants to make. And that is a really good place for me to say goodbye to that character. In practical terms, why did I stop working? It felt right, like I could see it coming together. This is a real life, and I'm really following a person with a camera, and he's really going to college, and that is not cool for anybody, particularly a freshman in Dartmouth. So that helps to make some choices about, like, where do you stop? It felt right. It felt like a good time for both of us to stop working on the film.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Hi. I was at Tacoma Race with my grandson. I think it was 2 years ago, so he's at the end of 3rd grade. He's going into 5th grade this year. And one thing I noticed in all the books and questions, kind of during it, watching and listening. 2 of his teachers were there, and he goes to Gardner Montessori, which is part of the Tacoma Public School. And when he went up to meet him and get his book signed, William wanted a picture with him. He was the youngest person there, and he pulled a poster off the wall and signed it for Mikey. And the 2 teachers who weren't his teachers went back to school and said he was the youngest kid there, and he was like wide-eyed and started asking questions about environmental things and tinkering with things at home, and really piqued his interest. He went back to school. He was a celebrity. It's like, Mikey, you went to this talk and you met this guy that built a windmill. How cool is that? So it made him take a look at, he wasn't having a great year. But there was, he's very smart and he wasn't being challenged. And so he decided he was going to run for ASB. He got involved with that. He's much different kids from that experience, and I think he's learned a lot just from being at this senior leader, respond to questions, with his poise, his generosity, and his kindness. So thank you for bringing the film. I just really happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi. I was just wondering, when did he learn his English? Because he was 14 years old and reading a book in English.
He was, yeah. So Malawi used to be a kind of, let's call it, like
it was a colony.
Okay. It was a colony.
Yeah, all of East Africa was colonized by the British.
But for a period of time, it was colonized by the British, but it existed almost as like a protectorate. It had a very peaceful, a bloodless revolution that led to it being in control of itself. Nevertheless, English is still kind of a mandated language, and students would learn English in school. That said, English is not very common. William couldn't grasp a lot of English, and so generally what he was doing with that book was figuring out from the diagram what he thought would make sense. He kind of taught English to himself from the diagram to figure that out.
And then when he went to high school, how did he?
Well, he learned as best he could. Kept up. There's a little moment where you see him in a language course. Someone's trying to correct his pronunciation. I think through the course of the film, you see his voice in English sharpen and evolve, and so he's learning on his feet as he's good at. I think that's our last question, but I wanted to say thanks for watching and staying and talking, and this is a really special place to show a film from the standpoint of me and probably everyone else that's shown today. So I'm happy to be here. So thanks very much.